Good afternoon and welcome to Good Journeys Tarot Sunflowers. It's so good to be back with you after a week off. Enjoying some time at Northwest Tarot Symposium. And once again, I did the thing where I forgot to hit go live after I hit my little countdown. I think I'm going to have to do what Lisa Papez does and do a 3-minute countdown. That way, if I forget, you'll still have plenty of notice going into the future. So today we are looking at the Six of Pentacles. But as always, before we do that, let's talk about what's been going on here. Obviously, Northwest Tarot Symposium was a big thing that happened that took up a lot of my time and joy for the last week. And I'm not going to share all of the things that I got there and all of my stories and everything. You can go to my link tree, and I'm going to put that link in the chat, which is also in the description box. And here we go. So you can find everything. I did a little write-up about it on my website if you just want a quick down and dirty review of what happened. And then on Instagram, you'll see all the videos of all the goodies that I got and the things that happened to me there. So I won't go into great detail because we could be here for a whole hour-long video with that alone. But I am going to share a couple of things that have come into my life. One is this book. So funny story. I used to do entire books like this in a weekend when I was a kid, right? Just doing word search after word search after word search on different topics. It was a great way to learn about things. And so Northwest Tarot Symposium was one of those things where I wasn't actually sure it was going to happen until it happened because the economy just kind of went haywire this summer. But in the Six of Pentacles way that things work, my mother became my benefactor, and she had made this card and sent it to me with all kinds of cool little stuff about traveling in it, along with some money to help me with my trip, which is why I was able to do some shopping. And also she had a little word search in there, which I had not done in years. And I thought to myself, I wonder, there has to be a tarot word search out there. And I did find this one on Amazon, and it actually has keywords, like a whole bunch of keywords for you to look up for each card. I thought that was a fantastic way to learn about the tarot if you are new to it, or if you've been studying it for a while and you just want a word search to do on a plane, right? Because it was a 6 to 8 hour trip easily for me going from the East Coast. And so that kind of related to the Six of Pentacles as well, you know, having a benefactor to help you with things. So I'm going to share this one last thing with you about Northwest Tarot Symposium, because I drew this card from the Attractors deck this week, and it says, manifesting is the creative process of aligning with the energy of the universe to co-create an experience that elevates my spirit and the spirit of the world. And I kind of felt like that's what happened for me there at that event. Lots of good education and good inspiration. And so now I have all of these new projects in the works for you guys, and also new perspective on my own practices. So very glad that that got to happen. But let's talk about this card and our 78 cards in 78 weeks. We are so far into this now. We are over 2/3 of the way there. We have 21 cards, and we are beginning to have a lot of exciting guests pop in and help us as we explore these. Today's guest is MitchellOsborn. Welcome, Mitchell. I had the privilege of meeting Mitchell at StarCon and sharing some meals with him, and it was wonderful getting to know you there. Mitchell reads tarot, and he also works with animals, correct?
Yes, I am an animal communicator or a pet psychic.
Great. And we will share some ways that you can work with Mitchell and what's going on with him towards the end of our broadcast. Let's jump in and look at some of the cards. For me, this card has, when I first saw it, it was like, okay, it's about giving, right? You're the first response is someone's giving, and it's about giving. But over time, it's actually become about reciprocity, which is what it's called in the Life is Like a Board Game deck. That might look familiar, like a specific board game. Um, and the idea that there is give and take. And I think that's where that whole moon in Taurus comes in. There's a cycle, sometimes we're the giver, sometimes we're the receiver. And I really like that. Let me get over here. I'm forgetting to switch my little banners. I need a personal assistant. Yeah. And there's some beautiful redepictions of the Smith Wade image that to me, I feel like are a lot nicer. Like when I see this one, oftentimes I think he to me feels a little bit like um, I'm showing off that I'm giving kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's this whole hierarchy there that Rachel Pollack goes into detail about, where the beggars are on their knees asking for money and he's doling it out. And so he's the dominant one here and they're the submissive one, basically. In more modern cards, we tend to move away from that with that more idea of give and take. I like this one from the Fyodor Pavlov. It seems a little more gentle, like here, I have this, you need this, you take this, versus here, take all of my money, which I see in a lot of decks. Like one of my favorite decks, the Slow Tarot. I mean, it just looks like, here, peasants, take my money, let me throw it at you, kind of.
Almost like, what is it? Let them eat cake.
Yes, I kept thinking that when I looked at some of these cards, like here's the Curious Travels, it's just out of reach, and I
Yeah.
always feel like, oh my gosh, they're trying to keep it from them.
And
And what's this card?
this is Legacy of the Divine Tarot. I'm a huge Chitter Marchetti fan. This is what I read probably like 95% of the time, especially professionally. And I love it for a couple of reasons. One, there are no people like bodies, there's just the hands. So I like that removal. But even still, you can see that the hand giving is gloved and the ones receiving aren't. And then I also love that you can see the moon and the Taurus image in the background. And something that I appreciate about this is another Chiro deck, and I promise I'll pull something not Chiro. This is a Tarot of Dreams, which I've been using in my weekly stuff, my weekly YouTube videos, because it has the astrological symbols. And that was my main goal, is to connect them even more. But I like that this person does not look like they're of high stature. They almost look like a page to me. And they're handing out the Libra symbol, which I love. And I also feel like sometimes there's the Taurus stubbornness in asking for help or actually taking from somebody, because I've often not wanted to receive gifts from people because it felt awkward. And I'll never forget this man in a bookstore, a Christian bookstore of all things, years ago. He wanted to give me a book and I said, no, thank you. He said, you're denying me a blessing by not taking the gift that I'm offering you. And I was like, that lesson stuck with me forever. So that reminds me a lot of the Six of Coins sometimes. Like, even though these people may be of high stature, get over your stubbornness and accept, because it can often bring that balance in, because there's almost always some scales, some balancing scales within that Six of Pentacles.
Absolutely. And a lot of decks show, that scale in some way or form. That's the This Might Hurt.
And because it's October, I had to pull this out. So this is the Six of Hazards. And I love how this zombie tarot, the zombie is chained to the lawnmower. So they have no choice but to work. And they're working for the steak, the meat that is being dangled in front of them. So this makes me really think of like indentured servant. You could get kind of like, again, like the class or the caste system of like, if you don't work, you're gonna die. It's almost like this. I almost want to say like a weird type of kind of like slavery or being chained to the system. So it's a really interesting card.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then
So,
I also pulled a couple that don't have more people in it.
right.
You know, Stephen Bright's Spirit Within Tarot, which I love. And then also, of course, most everybody will recognize, you know, Chris Ann's Light Seer. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there again, oh, you got it too, yes.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's just the hand. And this feels so just genuine and neutral, as well as this one too. Just very beautiful and genuine.
So I always like to look at the Thoth cards too, just because I find sometimes the imagery or the emphasis there is slightly different and gives a new connotation to the card. The Golden Dawn called this the Lord of Material Success. So the focus really was about the person having enough that they could give out of their wealth to other people. And the Thoth cards are often called success or prosperity and that type of thing. But this was another card I had in my stack of like, here, let them eat cake kind of thing. You know, it just seems like, okay, here, take these coins for shining my boots. But you see how the coins are arranged there, or the disc is how they're arranged on the Thoth card. And that appears in a lot of decks which aren't necessarily Thoth based, like the Spacious Tarot, this idea of the circle
Oh,
as cycles, perhaps that moon in Taurus energy, producing that kind of psycho wheel effect. And it even showed up in my new deck, the Penumbra deck from Ethany, where they're sharing a meal. And so
wow, I
you
love it.
see that circle.
And
Uh,
here's one not a lot of people have. This is the Ghetto Tarot, and just this was Alice Smeets, just an incredible, beautiful deck, and just in Haiti used the Haitians to create with what they had this beautiful deck, and just it's just a really beautiful image, similar to you know the typical Rider Waite kind of imagery, but I love this one.
it's gorgeous. Yeah, the idea of success takes different forms in other decks. This is one that's been on my list for a long time. It's the New Era Elements, and so they went with this kind of climbing the mountain, getting to the top of the mountain kind of idea versus the charity, which oddly enough is an idea that comes across in traditional meanings of the Marseille, the Thoth, and the Smith Waite. Um, and then we get some additional information as well from each of those systems about the card. But this one almost does away with that idea of charity in a way.
Yeah.
It focuses on success over the material.
And I chose this one from the Modern Witch just because of the richness of the colors and the diversity and just and I also once I pulled it, I thought I love that they're gifts in their hand giving. You know, they're not giving the coins, the pentacles, they're giving gifts. And I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I enjoy ones that really focus on that idea of charity, of giving, that back and forth. This is the Lily White. This is the 5 cent tarot, the bird there with the worm giving the little ones and sharing it was kind of cute. And that's from the Modern Love, actually
Wow.
exchanging of gifts. Gifts being an idea that comes up with this card a lot. Um, this is one of my favorites, though, from the Numinous Tarot, the little free libraries that you see popping up around
Yeah.
spaces. And in tomes or books was the suit of pentacles or coins in this deck. And so that was just a perfect image in this particular deck for this idea of give and take and sharing. But I've always loved the bone stone. I show the bone stone every week. People are like, "Yeah, you like the bone stone," but just that idea of sharing and kindness. That out of what you have, no matter what it is, you don't have to be the rich guy, right? Like me, my mom helped me get to Northwest Terrace Symposium, but then, in a few weeks, one of my friends will say, I need, help with like medicine or with a bill or something. And I'll have a little bit and I'll share it with them, even though I just got through having someone share with me. Right. And so it's
Yeah.
really, to me, more out of what we have versus because we're rich. Right. so to speak. I do have a
And
few that focus. Go ahead.
And I also love, I'm a huge numerology person, so that's a layer when I read. And six is that balance, that nurture, service oriented, responsibility versus duty, work versus, family. So there's all that kind of, balancing acts going back and forth, which I love.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that beauty and balance and harmony because that's Tiferet on the Tree of Life, which is where the sixes reside. Um, and this is that like perfectly balanced space, according to Crawley, where elements are in their best, right? They are equally associated with the divine and with the mundane. And so we get this spirit of giving to meet people's physical needs, but we're doing it out of our spirituality, out of our divine purpose, out of kindness, not necessarily out of our wealth. So it's not basically, it's not to get a break on our taxes. It's to practice our own faith, our own spirituality, whatever that form that might take. And you see there, it's halfway between,
Yeah.
the, you know, the aces and the tens. So um, I do like looking at the Tree of Life occasionally when I'm looking at them. And most decks do, like we said earlier, use that scale to represent that balance and harmony. I actually have a few here that just feature the scales prominently. This is the Sawyer's Path tarot tile. I was never able to get the actual deck, so I grabbed the tiles at Northwest Tarot Symposium. And Jamie is just the most lovely person. Have you met her? She
Not in person. I'm hoping to. I think the thing that will shock me the most is her height, because I know she's only like 5'1", and I'm 6'1".
okay.
But we've had many conversations and stuff like that. And of course, I was fortunate to be in her the Pocket of Peers tarot with one of my cats, Bartolomeo. So yeah, she is an amazing being, just gorgeous, genuine being. Yeah,
It's funny you mentioned height. I never realized how tall I was in comparison to other people, specifically women, until I went to Northwest Terrace Symposium. And every photo I took this weekend, I'm the tallest person, even though historically I've never considered myself that tall.
yeah.
So, yeah, this is the Tarot of the Toiling Hands. They call it the
Ooh,
Lord of Equality, which is an idea that we get with the scales. And for
wow.
me, this card kind of brings up that idea of social justice, of
Mm.
universal income, universal health care, make sure everybody physically is taken care of. And that's kind of what she decided to call that card.
And
Um,
also, I when I read, I'm always looking, thinking what happened just before, what happened just after, numerologically, and also with the cards. And this six, we just went from Five of Pentacles, where we might have had we. I almost feel like the Five of Pentacles is the person on the street going, "Oh, there's somebody that can help me," and they run up to them and they like drop to their knees and like, "Can you help me?" And they help. And then, of course, after the six becomes that seven, where you hope that by that help it gets them onto a better playing field where they're going to start growing their own, developing their own 7 8, working hard. It's like hopefully it does level that playing field and bring the balance back in.
Yeah, and Crowley called this like temporary success. Like, you don't know if it's going to produce ongoing results, but at least for now, you have what you need
Yeah.
in front of you. And so um, I love this image from the Spirit Keepers Tarot, but but it's kind of bothered me a little bit that she called it the giver because which I kind of understand. A lot of people focus on the person who's actually doing the giving, but when we read it, oftentimes you kind of have to think based on the other cards around and the question you're asking. Do you need to be receive with gratitude, or is this a time where you need to be giving? Right? Because, and I think both are elements of this card when we typically look at it. So.
And I
Um,
love how it takes me on a almost like this journey. It goes like out of the hand into the scale, down like a giant, I guess maybe an S. But wouldn't it be cool if this in reverse had the word at the bottom receiver. Like
Right.
if it,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like if that was in reverse, then it would be the receiver giving, or receiving. I don't know. I'm just thinking that'd be kind of cool.
Those are some of the thoughts that crossed my mind when I made my mock up of my draft of the card. But that give and take is important to me, and that's why I kind of like the Santa Morte, the idea of the clock tick-tocking back and forth. It swings both ways, and that's kind of the idea. Again, I'm bringing up the moon in Taurus, and that Crowley talks about with the thoth image is, it comes in cycles, and sometimes we are the giver, sometimes we are the receiver. The important part being that we do all of this in the right frame of mind, in the best possible motivation, right? Um,
I was looking at my cheat sheet for Taurus. I think it's the I have, the bull, and it's I think the
yeah.
throat, which I'm another area where I'm really learning. But it's like the throat is interesting that it's connected to that card.
I have two more cards that are a little bit odd. Do you have any other cards that you've had brought out
No,
for us?
no, I thought I had a ton, but you obviously have a lot more, which I'm
Okay,
excited.
yeah,
I get to see
not a
more.
problem. So one of them is this card from the Sacerabito, and I kind of get this idea that for every time I look at it, I'm like, okay, why are they spitting at each other? But the idea being they're connected, right?
Mm.
That it's a give and take, that the energy is going back and forth. It's not one-sided. And so it freaked me out the first time I saw it, because the way the line is drawn from the lips, it to me just seemed like they were spitting at each other, and it was like, what's going on with this card? But
And the
this
first
kind of
the first
notates
thing.
that throat chakra thing that you were talking about in a way,
Oh,
you
and the
know.
but when you first held it up, I thought almost like what was the dogs that ate spaghetti? Lady and the Tramp.
Lady and the
that,
Tramp,
that
right?
was
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
that was the
And
first thing
that
I
would
thought.
be a great image for this card, right? I mean, there's sharing and caring, and yes. And then the last one is actually one I can personally relate to this one, but this is the Mystic Garbage Tarot, and I immediately thought to myself about my acid reflux, and sometimes you just have too much and you have to get rid of it, and that's the same way with money, right? I mean, you can only spend so much money in this lifetime, so why let it just sit there doing nothing when it could be
Yeah,
benefiting others around you, right? Or yeah, and when I did my card, it was all about how we did that growing up. Like, my family and friends all had farms of various sizes, and sometimes they would have too much that they couldn't eat themselves or make use of. And so they would invite other people to come and pick fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing. And then, we didn't have a farm, but my dad fished and hunted all the time. So we would bring them fish and deer, and that type of thing. And so there was this give and take. And that's, to me, is an important part of that card. We definitely talked a bit about the astrology behind the card, and we talked a little bit about the Kabbalah. I'll talk a little bit about the shadow side. I always like to talk about that, even though I don't typically shuffle to obtain reversals. If a card comes up and I feel like it's a shadow in that spread, then I'll read it as a reversal. And so I like to talk about that a little bit. Um, some of the ideas around it to me are like that you're back at the 5 of Pentacles, like you've never moved past that. You're still in need. Um, and yet some of it is also about you, because you're needy, then you are jealous of the person who does have, or you're envious of them, or that kind of thing. Um, so there's still that episode maybe of wanting.
yeah.
Uh, or you're just not grateful, like you just take, and you don't give back to anybody else, or that kind of thing. What
And
things come to mind for you?
and as you two things are talking, it's two. One is like the seven, because a lot of times it's a tree full of it, and it's like you just spoke of, when you have excess, what do you do? And it may go to waste, it may spoil. But here's something that just came to me, and I never thought of it before. That person that we typically see giving it out, he's on the street, he's doing it, and he's probably getting like some kind of satisfaction or praise, or he's maybe doing it for the show of it. And I feel like that could be a shadow aspect. Look at me, I'm giving to these, poor people who need my, almost like the savior type of a thing. That makes me feel like it could be, something. What's motivating that person? Is it, because they are grateful that they have, so they want to help others, or is it because they want to look better? Or in our day and age, a lot of people give a lot of money for reasons that are not what everybody thinks they're for. It's for a tax break,
Absolutely.
or it's to make them look good in the polls.
Absolutely. Totally get that. Yeah, so there are a lot of ideas that I read in the books about this card and how, it is some of it is about maybe finding a benefactor. There are times where we do need assistance, and it's okay to reach out and ask for help. And so when we see this card, that's something that we might want to consider. But this card is also, I guess, considered a blessing. So, like, because you were in need and now you have something, so you have to show your gratitude. And I think that's part of the thing is that if we give out of our gratitude for what we have, and then we are grateful for what we're receiving, we're going to be more likely to continue that cycle, of helping
and
others and others helping us.
and I forget, was it position 9, I think, in the Celtic cross, hopes and fears. I always think of that card as kind of like almost like the light and the shadow, or the opposite, or the two sides of one coin. What might the hope be? That we are helping people, that we are able to give. What might the fear be? That they're going to be knocking on my door again tomorrow asking for more. It's like, so that could be some of the shadow, that we're afraid to give because then we might be expected to continue to give, or that we might give too much because we liked it, and then we become the ones who might need help. Interesting.
Absolutely. Well, let's look at what I did. And basically, what I've been doing is using Creative Commons imagery to mock up a draft of what I want the cards to look like when I finally hire an illustrator or artist to help me with it. And I always tend to like go back and I want to relate them to my previous cards. So this is the Page, Queen, and King of Pentacles, which we've previously done. And I'm still going to be editing them a bit because now I realize I kind of want some of the apple trees in the Queen and King. And I think I may want to move the Student, which is my Page, to the farm where they're at. And so we'll see. Initially, I had done it as a student at like a college or a university, and it was a little bit of older person. But then I went back and I've made all of the Pages children
Okay.
with the same
And
kind of
and
idea.
this is not me telling you what to do, but the moment you said the child, picking the apple at the farm, I literally saw like groves, and then walking like down the middle of the grove picking, and I love how that connects back.
Yeah. So this was kind of my starting point. Like I knew I wanted to relate it to other cards in the deck. And so I started out with, sorry, wrong one. With this. Oh, come on. There we go. With this. And I intentionally put the apple in the hand of the person on the bottom because my whole idea was, okay, who's doing the giving and who's doing the receiving?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Is this person reaching for the apple, or have they just handed it to the other person?
Oh my
Was my
gosh.
idea. And I have a Facebook group. So those of you who aren't a member, click on the link tree and you'll see that, where I share the images beforehand and we kind of talk about them. And Tony Antoinette from Tony Antoinette's Intuitive Tarot and Jewelry was speaking with me and giving me some feedback on what she had thought. I played with the color of the hand because I didn't like the white one and the black one. And I was trying to avoid that idea of dominance and submissive in it. And I even played with making one of them a realistic hand and the other one the silhouette, like I've been using to represent the people I actually want. But eventually I decided I wanted them both to be the same color, and so that they were still equal. And I realized at that point that this hand is larger than this hand. So I had to go back and shrink that. But I also then realized that, if I'm going to have an apple here, perhaps there should be apple trees back here instead of these other random trees. And so this is what the final version ended up looking like. Nope, that's not it. That is it. And
Oh my gosh.
I actually shrunk this hand. I measured it against this hand, so they're roughly the same size. But if you look, the apple trees in the background, I did decide to play with that idea of dominance a little bit and you can actually see my intention now a little bit, that this is the giver and this is the receiver. The idea that we don't always give from the top, we give from what we have, even if we are the submissive. That the tree that bared fruit, the larger tree, is actually on this side with the hand that's got the apple, but this one didn't bear any fruit. And so they're technically the one who's reaching for an apple, asking for assistance. And so I wanted that idea that they were equal, but also at the same time that it can come from either direction. Whether you're on top or
Yeah.
you're on bottom, you always have a need.
Yeah.
And so that's
That's
kind of where I was
that's
going with it.
beautiful. That
And then I
really
added
is
little
beautiful.
flowers to fill space, and it also connects with the other cards that had it in there. But as you were talking about the 7, and I want to show you the 7. So here is the 7 that I originally had created. And I discovered I lost this image, that I lost the file where I edited the image. I've got to recreate it if I want to do any editing after this. But the idea was, and it's hard to see unless you're holding the card, but I put the 7 ripened apples in the shape of the geometric order of the
Yes.
pips on the Marseille and the Thoth, and so you have your pips there, your 7 apples. The idea, of course, being, are we going to continue to have fruit or not have fruit? So the basket's still empty. We haven't actually picked any of these apples, green or otherwise. And so my idea is here that this person is this person, and this
Yeah.
person is either the king or queen. Yeah, if you
Oh,
notice, they were both dressed in business suits. And
yeah, I
so,
love it.
and that's why I chose the hands the way I did. And so I tried to connect the cards in some way that I could. And so, um, and I'm trying to relate these all to personal experiences, like my own experience of trying to grow things and never knowing if they're going to succeed or fail. And growing up in the country where we would share fruit and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
I love the color and vibrancy of the cards, and I know you said this is a mock-up, and that artist will eventually do their thing. Are you wanting it this vibrant, this colorful, or might it look something completely different?
Oh, it'll probably be something completely different. I
Okay.
actually, when I first started this, I was very random. Like I would choose the first image that I saw. I'd say, okay, I want these images in here. So I would just choose the first ones and arrange them on the card. Well, then a couple of people were like, oh, are we going to be able to get a copy of it? And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, then I have to make them look consistent. And so I spend more time now with the images than I was. And so I will be making it available to print on demand if anybody wants the rough draft version once I'm
Yeah.
done. And there's still things as I'm finishing all of the cards, because I'm doing them random, pulling them from my first working tarot deck, that I decide I want to go back and revisit in cards. Like, for example, now in this 7, I feel like I want to make the sky resemble the sky in the rest of the pentacles,
Okay,
where
yeah.
there's this kind of sun shining in the background as well. So it would probably be much the same, except for it's going to have this background instead of the solid blue. But we'll see. So speaking of random, I'm going to remove this for a moment. We're going to draw the card for next week, and look at this. This is all of the cards that are left to be done in the deck.
Wow.
So since I mentioned that, I guess I'll share this again. Next week is actually a special episode for those who haven't been watching my Instagram. I'm going to be doing a birthday special for my birthday where we're going to talk about the wheel because I created the wheel last year. It was my card of the year beginning with my birthday last year, and I've already made it and studied it, so I can take a little break this week for my birthday. And my friends who have been here twice now in this project, Amy from Strength Reverse and Tarot Stash, Gerald will be here. And we're going to play some games. We're going to talk about the wheel. We're going to do a little celebrating. So, and I will be sharing the StreamYard link in the chat. So if you are here live and in person next Saturday at 6 p.m., you can actually share your favorite wheel card or wish me happy birthday or play the games with us or that kind of thing. So do be looking for that. The card that we're drawing today is actually for, I moved the wrong one. Sorry. For October 30th, where we'll be having a very spooky episode with Sasha Graham talking about a card, which Mitchell and I are now going to draw. Let me shuffle. It's getting harder and harder to shuffle with like 5 or 20 cards, but we're going to do it. While I'm shuffling, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is you do and you're currently working on or how people can work with you?
Yeah, so I'm a tarot card reader, psychic medium, and animal communicator or a pet psychic. And the best place to find me is at MitchellOsborn.com. And then all my links are there. But I pretty much post a daily card draw for the day with a little message from Spirit on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. Don't do Snapchat yet, TikTok sometimes. But then also I do a weekly tarot energy forecast for the week. So I'll post that usually Saturday mornings. Like I just posted it yesterday morning for this coming Monday through Sunday. And I pull 3 cards just to see what the energy looks like. How can you best navigate it? What might you learn or grow from it? And if you want to book a session with me, again, MitchellOsborn.com. But one thing I love, love, love doing is I have over 50 spreads on my website. You can buy the spread like a Celtic Cross, or most people are buying the Halloween Year Ahead spread, where it's a designated spread. And in a YouTube video, I deliver it back to you. It's unlisted, only you can see it. So once you pay for that, then within 1 to 3 days, I record it specifically for you, do a tarot reading, and send it back. You usually have homework because I'm telling you to watch it 3 to 5 times and some other specifics to do when you're doing that. But that's something that I love doing, because I do have a full-time career in health and well-being for employees here in the Central Florida area. So I do this nights and weekends, and it is my love and my passion. So there's how you can find me, MitchellOsborn.com.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same position. I work in the corporate world during the week and pretty much do things on the nights and weekends. Our card for Sasha Graham on the 30th is going to be the King of Cups. So we're going to have a watery, spooky Halloween.
Because that's me. I'm the King of Cups.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I'm awesome. Pisces, and that's always my representative. So I love that it's the King of Cups. Yay, Pisces.
Yeah. It's interesting how the cards show up. They generally, when I've been working with this process, randomly pulling them for 78 weeks now, they relate to what's been going on in my life. And maybe that's correlation. Maybe that's, random. Maybe it's because of the card, or maybe it's the card is because of what's going on in my life.
Yeah, I love it.
I suppose we'll never know for sure, but I love that they do those kinds of things. Thank you so much for being here with us today and talking about the 6 of Coins, Orbs, or Pentacles.
Thank you. Happy birthday coming up. So I appreciate being here. It was a blast, a pleasure, and I hope we get to see each other in January. I know you're working on that.
Right, yes. We'll see. I'm hoping to be at StarCon. We'll find out probably by Tuesday. Fingers crossed. The cards seem to think I'll be there, but we'll see what the bank says. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Good journeys.